ジタバタせずにコーヒーでも入れよう。
Hey, yo! Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
What up?
Good.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Happy Sunday. Thanks.
Happy
anyone
St.
who's
Patrick's
tuned in.
Day.
Oh, God, it is. It is St. Patrick's Day. You're right. I forgot. Nev, you're Irish, right?
Yeah, I'm an ish. I'm not
Yeah.
Irish.
You're a little happy little leprechaun.
Yeah.
So, anywho, it is a happy Sunday because last Sunday we got to see something that never would have thought in my life. Rich looks different. Yeah. We got to see something I never would have thought I'd ever see in my life, which we're going to talk about today. With me is Dutch, John DeSantis, as always, Mike Russo, and once again, the mighty Nev of Gruesome Graphics. Rich is on assignment today. He's been sent to Monster Island to track down.
Did he take a jet to get there?
He took a jet to get to Monster Island. That's why he looks different today. How you doing, Big Ken? Thanks for tuning in. Who's this? Oh, happy birthday next Wednesday. This Wednesday. Happy birthday. Hope it's good. Hope you get lots of Godzilla toys. Anything new with you guys? Anybody get anything new in the mail lately that they want to show off or talk about before we?
Nah.
I got that Knott's Matango, that clear one.
Yeah, that thing's cool. You have it handy?
Yeah, I have to get off my fat ass and get it though. Hang on.
Oh man, that's exciting. Thing is nice.
I didn't take it out of the bag, but I mean it's pretty cool. I mean it's a decent size figure. I mean it's like pilot.
Really big.
Yeah, it's big. I thought it was gonna be way smaller, but it's my first one. The paint's pretty rad. There's tinsel in it too, like the paper tinsel. Yeah, I didn't think I'd win it because I've entered a lot of times for like other ones, but there it is.
Who makes it?
Knott's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Knott's.
That thing's cool as hell. You're an unbag it, right?
Yeah, I haven't unbagged yet because I've been busy with other stuff, but I'm gonna keep it in for a little bit. The header card's kind of cool too. It's very simple.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's a decent figure. I mean, I always wanted a toy graph Matango, and those things are stupid pricey, so I threw hook in the water and got this one. So
Yeah, I hear you. Oh, look at that. My connection's unstable. That's great. You always like to see that when you're live streaming.
nice.
Yeah, I got, what did I get? I got the Hedera, the one-up Hedera that's done in the Hawaiian style. It's pretty
Nice.
cool. And I got the little factory.
Yeah.
You know, I read how the size of it online, and I was still like shocked at how small it was when I got it.
I really wanted the UFO set, but I've only saw like one person actually get it from YJ.
Is that from One Up or?
Yeah, it was one up. I think you had to buy like a big figure to get one and another big figure to get another. Like you had to buy something to able to purchase those because I didn't know.
Oh, okay. I got you.
But those were awesome. The Rodan and the Godzilla and then the ship.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. All right. Well, the big reason we're here is last Sunday night. And in case you missed it, here it is.
And the Oscar goes to. Here we go. This is Godzilla.
This is the first Oscar win and nomination for the visual effects team from Godzilla -1.
So yeah, that was pretty rad. Like when it first got nominated, I was just like, that's pretty cool. They're not going to win because I can't imagine them winning over like Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever, just due to everything. I mean, it's a Godzilla movie, right? So, and then as like a couple days before I started getting really tense because I really wanted it to win. And then I kept reading that it was the favorite to win. Like the day of, I read like multiple articles saying it was the favorite to win. And I was like, now if it doesn't win, I'm going to be really, really bummed. So like, it's like when my team goes to the Super Bowl and like, I'm like, oh, I'm just happy they're in the Super Bowl. And then the day of the Super Bowl, I'm like, dude, if they don't win the Super Bowl, it's going to be the worst day of my life. So it was kind of like that. So then when it did win, it was almost like it didn't almost register at first. Like first, it was cool that Arnold and Danny DeVito presented the award because they were really funny. And I didn't realize that that's what they were even up there to present until they said, the visual effects. And then I was like, oh, Jesus, because up to that point, I had just been enjoying them being silly with Michael Keaton and all that. So, but the whole thing from the moment they announced it to the hearing the Ifukube score as they went on stage, is just like, dude, in what world 10 years ago would you have ever thought that a Godzilla movie would win an Academy Award?
In a Japanese
Godzilla movie.
Yeah, a Japanese Godzilla movie would win an Academy Award for anything really, but visual effects especially, right? Like,
right.
I figured maybe one day if they were good, an American one might have maybe be nominated. You didn't think a Japanese one would, though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've always been like a punchline, for right or wrong. I mean, obviously, I'll say for wrong, but the effects have always been like a ha ha ha, a guy in a suit knocking over cardboard buildings type of joke, and for it to actually get recognized for that was pretty awesome. What'd you guys think?
Yeah, I have someone else can go because I've been talking a lot, but.
I mean, I was genuinely shocked that they used the Ifukube theme, which I guess I shouldn't have been because like, what else would they have used?
Yeah,
if it had won. But like, I was watching it with my buddy Kevin Frederick and our friend Sharon, and we're like, as soon as like Arnold says Godzilla, like we just like jumped up and we're like going nuts, and then Kevin's like, John, listen, and I was like, what? Like it was crazy. So yeah, using the term surreal is pretty overused. But I don't know how else you describe this. This was pretty cool. And for better or worse, whether it's Godzilla -1, Godzilla X Kong coming up, Godzilla's he's pretty hot in the streets right now. So never thought I'd see this time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just weird how like in the public consciousness he is currently, like with the general public, and not to get super sidetracked, but I think Toho, I mean they obviously have some sort of an agreement with Legendary where they're not going to, obviously like -1 can't be in the theater right now because I assume because of Kong and Godzilla.
Yeah, because like you would figure like they would have. If they were able to, they would have made a push to put it back into theaters for at least another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Like tickets for Godzilla and Kong are already live. You can pre-order them, so keeping it out of theaters, business-wise, it makes sense. You don't want two Godzilla films, one for pre-orders, one playing right now, competing that way.
Yeah,
it's probably better off if you want to see Godzilla. Your money has to go to Godzilla and Kong, not -1. I've already pre-ordered my ticket.
I wouldn't be surprised if they like do like 1 month quick run before the DVD release just to get people like remembering that it came out.
Yeah, I mean it's so tonally different from from the Legendary movies, and I'm almost worried that people are gonna go into like people that maybe wouldn't go see this movie are gonna be like, well, Godzilla just won an Oscar, let's go check this movie out, and this movie's gonna be so batshit crazy that when -1 does get released, they're going to be like, well, I don't want to see that because that Godzilla Kong movie was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. And look, I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I'm just saying it's probably going to be dumb. You can be dumb and still be entertaining. You know what I mean? Like lots of things are dumb and entertaining. But you know, the -1 is not dumb and it is very entertaining, but it's also really well done. And like I'm just a little. I hope they don't lose the. I hope the luster doesn't get taken off of -1 because it, you know, isn't streaming. It's not getting a physical release, and it's not coming back to theaters. And in 2 weeks, we're getting this Godzilla X Kong movie. So
yeah, but no one's going to forget -1 happened. I mean, the damn thing won an Oscar. People aren't just going to forget it just because Kong comes out. And I think it's really great that -1 came out when it did, kind of a buffer before Kong comes out, because the movie's going to be dumb. I mean, I'm sure we're all going to enjoy it, but the movie's going to be stupid. And I think going from Godzilla versus Kong to this one with nothing in between, I think makes everything look worse. I think having -1 in there at least shows people how great Godzilla can be when it's taken seriously. It won an Oscar and everything. So it's kind of this great buffer that happened between these two Godzilla and Kong films. And I think even if New Empire turns out really dumb, people can still say, well, -1 happened and that was fantastic. So Godzilla is still pretty cool. I mean, at least we have that reminding people that it's possible to take this stuff seriously.
I
don't
feel
know
like
if anybody agrees with that, but
I feel like there's enough of -1 sort of in the zeitgeist that I just don't buy that there'd be all that much audience confusion if it was making a post-Oscar run
they're
versus
so
like
different.
the tickets, being on sale for like you can't mistake -1 for Godzilla X Kong. Like there's just no mistaking them. And I think people know enough to know that it is a
Yeah.
Japanese production. It had a very limited release and then just was like the little engine that could at the Oscars. So
But
I,
there
I
might be people who don't know better and like, oh, another Godzilla movie. Like Brian said, let's go check that out. Who might not know better, but I don't think there's many people who wouldn't know better, though. Honestly,
Yeah, and they
most people know.
pretty separate too. Like even with the legendary stuff, they haven't said like, you know, sometimes you'll see like from the winning Oscars of or like Godzilla just won an Oscar. Watch this film. Like they've kept them very separate. So maybe there will be people confused, but they've already bought the ticket at that point. So who cares? You know.
Yeah.
I've read it's tracking to have a pretty good opening weekend. Whatever happens after that, I guess it's up in the air. But
yeah, I mean, I bought a ticket for this coming Friday showing, and there was 2 showings early, and they're both sold out. So,
oh wow,
yeah,
I bought tickets for Thursday the 28th, I guess that is, and
yeah, that's when I'm going.
I bought 4 tickets, and when I hit buy, they were the only 4 tickets so far bought in the theater. I'm sure that'll change.
sure.
I mean, anybody who goes from any of the legendary movies, I won't speak on the one that's not out yet, and then goes into -1 and sits down within the first 10 minutes of that movie will know that they are watching something so completely different than. I mean, I remember, the first time we saw that, looking over at Dutch in the theater and just being like, Jesus Christ, like that opening.
Well, yeah, because I think we told the story last time, but like I literally during that scene where the Odo Island Godzilla is just like completely like kicking ass. Like
Yeah.
I leaned over to say something to whisper something to you, and you just like took the words out of my mouth. You're like, "This is the coolest thing they've done with Godzilla in like 25 years." Like
Yeah.
Toho has done with Godzilla in like 25 years. Like it was just that opening scene was just so great. The way that they're just like he's like light the beach, and then floodlight goes on, and then it's just there.
Yeah, it's super unexpected. I went into that with I did not get any spoilers. I purposely really avoided spoilers. I'm so glad I did because I really was super surprised at how good it was. And then, I saw it 3 more times after that, and every time I've seen it, it has held up. I really wish I could go see it again, or at least stream it right now, especially after it won. I would love to see it like this weekend.
Gonna be a while.
Yeah, it's just tough. It is going to be a while.
It's funny how this has happened for years in terms of the Godzilla movies. They have to have their release schedule in Japan, but this is the first time I've really seen anybody actually complain about it, which is a good thing. It means the movie's great. But we've gone through this so many times over the years with movies that they have to get their Japanese release, and they come out later. But now this is the first time people are like, but I want to see it now. Why is it not out in America right now where I can buy it?
Just going all Veruca Salt.
You have to wait. It's not coming out on DVD in Japan until May, and who knows how much longer for here. There's the things that have to happen with these films, and I know I appreciate people want to see it again, but it's a waiting game now.
And not for nothing,
the Japanese release.
That's what I was going to just say.
I didn't. I probably should have because I wanted that gold Bandai, but
no, I might have if it was subtitled. Usually, I'm not like that. I'll buy whatever. But this is a movie I want to show to people, and there's just no point if they can't understand it. I mean, I spend lots of money on those 4Ks, but those are for me.
Right.
And I just can't spend that kind of money on a film that I want to show to everybody that I can't. So I'm just going to wait. And the gold Bandai's cute, but I don't need it.
No, I don't need it. It was just it was cool just because it was a gold. It was like they released it and then he won an Oscar. So it's like, guys, no. But I actually just want the special features. I hope that carries over to the States, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the Toho Blu-ray box sets for like the newer films, even if like you go back to like Shin Godzilla and even like the legendary films, like they always do these incredible box sets that and I think like the deluxe box, like the 4K one, also does come with -1 color.
Does
in the same box. So wouldn't it be wouldn't it be just awesome if like somehow this version had English subtitles and they just didn't announce it?
That would be nice.
Oh yeah, it'd be great. God.
But I did hear that something is going on with Criterion. So if it's Criterion, I can't imagine they would not put special features on it.
I mean, I read that that site that I believe that rumor came from is known for not always putting out the best of information. So I don't know.
I want to believe. I want to believe it.
We want to believe. Yes. I mean, when there's an official announcement, then.
I mean, Criterion wants everything. They're getting all the other movies, so I can imagine they're not going to want to try to get this one too. So,
yeah. I mean, I just back to the night itself. I mean, it was just an unbelievable thing as a lifelong fan to see. Here's some shots of them, and then here's the gold Godzilla that he had with his bow tie, which I thought was pretty cool. Them after the fact, this might have been before, and then this shot's great
with Chris Nolan.
Him and Chris Nolan, who won Best Picture. I think this movie probably could have been nominated for a few other things and probably won a few other things. Like it probably could have won Best Foreign Film. I saw The Zone of Interest, which I want to say which won Best Foreign Film.
Well, they would have had to have submitted it though by October.
Oh yeah, I know it didn't come out in time. But I mean, I think it could have probably won a few more things. I think it could have been nominated for Best Picture. I don't think anything was going to beat Oppenheimer for Best Picture. Certainly not a Godzilla movie, but who the hell knows?
I think it would have had a real shot of winning Best Sound Mix because that sound mix in that film is the best of any Godzilla movie like I've ever heard, and that's not even hyperbole. Like I just remember sitting in the IMAX theater and like even like when I saw Shin Godzilla, like, and I don't know if it was just because they used some of the older sound effects for nostalgia, but like I just remember that sound mix not having as much impact in like this one. Because I'm not necessarily trying to compare the two. I'm just saying in recent times, the two live action Godzilla films that we've had, like -1 just sounded like this sonic tour de force. It was like incredible. Like when the mine blew up in his mouth, like you felt that. Like, oh my gosh.
I wanted to say it before when Brian was talking about not going in spoiled. I was spoiled to some extent because I'm stupid enough to hang out on different forums and message boards, but it really didn't matter because -1 was such a visceral experience that there was no way to ruin it, because even if you read the entire plot, how it actually plays out on film is so well done. And like I said, so visceral that it's going to make an impact regardless of if you know what's going to happen. And I think that's why the film was so great. I think it took everyone by surprise. You go in thinking, oh, this is Godzilla. It's going to be a Godzilla movie. We've seen 30 some odd of Godzilla movies. What difference is this one going to be? And I think the biggest draw with -1 is it impressed people. by being surprising. And that's how the second time I saw it, there were like older women going to see it. People I never would have expected who probably just heard the good word of mouth and saying, hey, you want to see a good movie? I know it's Godzilla, but it's a good movie. And
Yeah,
I think that was its big advantage. The fact
Yeah.
that it was just a good movie. It wasn't a good Godzilla movie, because there are good Godzilla movies, but this is a good movie. And you could tell people, and people coming to me like, what did you think of -1? That's never happened before with Godzilla.
Yeah,
No randos were saying,
yeah.
what'd you think of that movie? I heard that movie's good. It's like, and for the first time I could say, yeah, this is a good movie.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think about Godzilla.
I agree. I had people on my
Facebook
Facebook page, that were, that would have never shown any interest in Godzilla, that were, sending me messages and commenting on things that I would post. And I know there was a girl I went to high school with who was like, one of the super, super, super cool, and, keep in mind, this was like the 90s when the cliques were definitely, there was not as much intermingling between the nerds and the cool kids as there is now. But I posted something on it, and she posted this whole long thing about like, how much she enjoyed it and how she liked the message and the PTSD. And did I catch the thing at the end on her neck? And I was like, holy shit. Like, this is just, this is not a, Godzilla person that's, having this reaction to this movie. So I can't wait till it comes out, because I really, really, really want to show it to people. Like, I really want to have like a viewing party at my house with a bunch of non-Godzilla friends.
And that's the thing. Why spend a couple hundred and shipping for a big Japanese box set that you can't show to people?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, one of those movies too that honestly needs the subtitles. Because like I the Showa movies and things like that, I've seen them so many times that I don't necessarily need to know the plot of the cockroach aliens. You know what I mean? And like, I get it. I know what this is about, but this movie is about like deep themes. Like, I wouldn't watch the original Godzilla without subtitles either, because it's too story driven of a movie. There's a difference between watching Godzilla versus Megalon without subtitles and watching, a serious drama without subtitles.
Yeah, you lose a lot of that human emotion.
Yeah,
detail
exactly.
without the subtitles. So I would wait.
Unless you have a lot of the dub scripts burned into your memory, then you might not need it.
Yeah,
I know what, like Godzilla versus Gigan, I can watch in raw Japanese because I know exactly what they're saying in English.
But I don't want to watch in raw Japanese. I love that dub.
Well, they're not giving you much of a choice anymore. I mean, the Criterion set and streaming, Gigan isn't dubbed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not dubbed on the Criterion set. I thought that was one of the ones that was dubbed on.
I thought the 70s. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was.
The 3 films Kraken put out, Sea Monster, Gigan, and Hedorah, do not have dubs on the Criterion set.
Huh.
Good.
Interesting.
And they're
Good to hold
not
on
dubbed
to those Blu-rays then.
They're not dubbed
I know.
on Godzilla Channel either.
Yeah. So not only did it win the Oscar, but it did win a ton of awards at the Japanese Academy Awards. It won Best Picture. It won Best Screenplay. It won Best Supporting Actress, Best Cinematography, Best Lighting, Best Art Direction, Best Sound, and Best Editing. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's essentially swept pretty much every category.
No score though. No award for Best Score though, huh?
Yeah,
Come on,
I love
what are we missing out here?
Yeah, I love the score to that movie. I think it's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. And I posted something on my Safubi sit down page that a lot of when people talk about the effects, they talk about the boat chase scene, which is a great shot. The whole sequence is incredible. But to me, that ending scene when they pull him out of the ocean and he's all like covered in frozen water and he's all
eyeballs just bugging out,
all fucked up. And he's just so pissed, and it pans, the camera circles around him and his mouth's open, and you can see like the inside of his mouth is like burning white hot. That to me is like my favorite shot in the movie, and it's one of my favorite shots in any Godzilla movie. It's so like, he's so scary looking in that shot. Like, what's your favorite like special effects shot?
You know what? I was just about to say that, Brian. I think my favorite, or one of my favorites, is when he's walking down the street and everyone's trying to run away and he's just stepping on people.
Yeah.
And we get a little bit of that in the very first film, a little bit of it, but this is whole crowds of people just getting stepped on.
Yeah.
And it's, again, I use the word visceral. It's the kind of thing that, maybe you allude to in some films, like the big G-84 foot coming down, but this is just full body Godzilla just stomping on live crowds of people. And I wrote this on my Facebook that, it won an award for effects. I don't think it's just because of how Godzilla was brought to life, although he's done well. I think it's everything around Godzilla that's happening. Like the way he's interacting with the people, the way he's interacting with the boats, with the buildings, stepping on people, blowing, the aftershocks from the atomic breath. That's, I think, what gave this film an Oscar. The way everything's integrated into the universe. And when he's walking down the street, stepping on people, and it looks very real, that's the movie does totally deserve that win. It totally deserved the Oscar for that kind of stuff.
The build on that part I have is where he's stepping on the streets and the streets buckle. That to me, that's like showed like the immenseness of him and showed like the realistic part. Because like
the street goes up.
Just like bounce off the street. Like that to me was probably
Or just flying up in the air.
Yeah, that was the most like realistic effect I've seen probably in a Godzilla movie. Just I know like 54 had obviously limitations, but that to me just made it look so real and visceral. To your point, like you never saw the streets buckle in a Godzilla movie like that.
Even when he picks up the train in his mouth, and she's trying to hold on, that kind of. I mean, you've seen movies where he picks up a train in his mouth or in his hands, and people look at him from inside the train, like in G-84. But here, like the train's swinging around and she's hanging on to it, and it's a lot more personal and real because we're focusing on what she's going through. They could have just shown him holding the train in his mouth and throwing it around, but we're seeing in the train.
And as someone who's afraid of heights, that sequence where she's dangling outside the train is scary as shit. And the sequence where the guys on the roof, the reporters on the roof, which is a callback to the original movie, the way the roof like slants and they start sliding down. Both those scenes, I'm like, oh no, I don't like this. I don't like this.
I love how I missed the -1 discussion because I had COVID back in December, but I loved how everyone's just going about their day in the city. And then, was it a train car flies across the street? And then we turn around and then bum, 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 bum. In the speakers, of course, the sound mix is incredible. And then we see Godzilla for the first time in broad daylight, like full body. And even though initially I was like, oh, okay, Mori Fukube score. I knew they were going to do it, but it took me out of it for a second, but I think it still works.
Of course it does.
I know. In the end, it does work,
To your point, Mike, that specific shot I think that you're talking about, it's the one that's like it's focused on them, then it kind of pans up, and then you just like you see Godzilla's feet behind the crowd as they're running. I think it just not even just the quality of the visual effects on that, but it's like the shot composition and like how the whole thing is like blocked and set up. Like I called this probably the most cinematic looking Godzilla film because we're not used to like sort of getting a lot of camera motion like that and stuff. We're used to like static shots of the monsters. And I think honestly, and another special effects sequence in that film that I think gets overlooked is, when Koichi takes the Shinden plane and he's flying and he starts like engaging with Godzilla and Godzilla's like snapping at him like, it just that whole scene looks like a Japanese countryside in the summertime. It's like it looks very humid. There's atmosphere when he's like flying and stuff, and he sees Godzilla off in the distance. And I thought that was just so cool. Just the way all of that was kind of set up as far as like editing and shot composition.
The lighting too. The lighting just even when he's in the scene, the lighting just really enhanced. Like he's attacking the first time, like it's more like a yellow like scenario, and you could see it on his skin, you could see it on like it was just very well lit to bring in that realism part. And even in that the scene where you're talking about, Dutch, where they're in the countryside, it's almost like warm, but there's this giant fucking like CGI Godzilla. Like, damn, this is like a beautiful scene, but it's here, so it's like very real.
Another bit I love. I mean, there's a scene in GMK, for example, where Godzilla is walking past a guy in the car, Godzilla's reflected on the window, and he's like, Godzilla. But he knows he knows what Godzilla is. But I love that Noriko's in the train, and she has no idea what this creature is. She just knows Koichi fought something. And then she sees this larger than imaginable thing out the window, heading right toward the train that she can't get out of. And she's just like, that's Godzilla. And it's like, it's a holy shit moment. Like, nobody knew what to expect. Like, and that's what makes it so. It's just an incredible movie. I wish I had seen it more times because I'm visualizing all the stuff in my head.
Yeah,
but I wish I could see it again.
Yeah, I know.
And all I can do right now is listen to the soundtrack. That's all I can do right now. I want to see the movie. And
Dutch, I think one of you guys was just saying about the plane, the sequence with the plane. I had actually read that plane, the mock-up, they got funding from a museum to build that mock-up because the budget didn't allow it, and the
museum
catch was that the museum got to keep it when it was done. So that's like a legitimate mock-up of that plane, which was a plane that did exist.
There were 2 prototypes made of it, and it's funny because whatever's left of them is here in the States. Like I think the Smithsonian has some of the parts. There's not a complete version, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool that they did that. Matthew Buzzle makes good points. Yeah, the part with the farm is super because it's just a family just going about their day, and suddenly Godzilla.
And you see the rubble just like disperse all over.
And the dog is barking, and you see the dog running away. It's like
the dog got away. In my head canon, that dog got away. The dog didn't.
That dog definitely got away. The dog, he absorbs radioactivity and becomes Anguirus. And then and this is true too. The environments and all that stuff, because there's a lot of special effects in the movie when Godzilla's not on screen as well, that you don't even realize. Like I didn't realize how much of the city, not the city itself, but like when he goes back to his village and it's all bombed out. That looked to me like a set. Apparently, almost all that was green screened. The stuff on the boat, the stuff where they're on the boat is so low tech, done with CGI. Like the combination of the low tech and the CGI. Like when they're on the boat and it's just them on a mock-up of a little section of a boat, and when the boat moves, the actors had to move. Like it's and that same mock-up of the boat was used for various different boats in the movie. It wasn't just used for the battleship. It was also
really hard to tell though.
Oh, it's crazy.
I mean, there's always in Godzilla movies. There's always stuff, not the monster, but stuff involving people, where it's just like, oh, why did you do it that way? But there's nothing in -1 where it's like there's no effect that pulls you out of the movie.
I was gonna say, I think Yamazaki in an interview addressed? Do you remember how everybody thought that close up of the mouth with the mine was like a miniature, or a practical effect, that it wasn't like a CGI? Apparently, that is CGI, and it's so
looks like
hard to believe because it looks completely photorealistic, and like it's so hard to tell that. Like I was fooled. I thought it was an actual practical effect.
Yeah, thought it was like a puppet or something, like a fucking Cybot or something.
It's definitely worth watching that little mini documentary that they put out about the making of the effects, because there's a lot of cool stuff in there that I didn't realize was an effect. And I think they sent that to the Academy. I think that was like their their for your consideration type of a thing that they sent. And I think that video probably would have had something to do with them winning the award. I mean, I think the award is, they won it for multiple reasons. The effects are legitimately really good. I think also it helps that the movie is really, really good. And I think a lot of the people that saw the movie just liked the movie. I think you can take it almost as this was the best like sci-fi movie of the year, if you want to take it that way as well. This was the best visual effects movie of the year as well, not just that the effects were the best. And because I think, a lot of I read something yesterday that the director of Oppenheimer, who's Chris Nolan, really enjoyed it. Steven Spielberg is on record as having really enjoyed it. I mean, Danny DeVito is like freaking out when they announced. He's like, yeah, when they announced it.
By the way, really quickly, I thought that the whole exchange between them and Michael Keaton right before they announced it just made that whole thing so much more enjoyable. That is just such a
That's what
great,
I was saying earlier.
You
Yeah,
could have had
beautiful
s-
Oscar moment.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could have had somebody who we didn't care about go up and announce it. It's like, yeah, it's great, but this gets going even before we know it's a visual effects category. Like as soon
Yeah, I
as
didn't know
DeVito
it
and
was.
Schwarzenegger go up, you know you're going to have a good time with them. The second they go up on stage together, I
Well-
was making twins jokes sitting there watching it happen, and it's like you're already into it. You're invested because you like these guys.
Well, the irony too
And-
is like them being in probably some of the worst Batman films ever, with like Mr. Freeze's like bionic suit and like the penguin suit was okay, but like you look at it now, it's pretty dated. So for them to
Yeah.
be setting a visual effects award is hilarious.
Yeah. And back to the visual effects, like I already said, like I love that scene at the end, but the other scene that I love, there's a bunch of stuff that's just really cool. Like I love how on land he's very slow, except when he's not, when he's really pissed off, he can move fast. But once he's in the water, he's like a completely different, like he's very fast in the water.
Yeah.
The scene where where he grabs hold of the battleship, the destroyer, and is like latched onto it, and it turns the cannons and fires to him. Like, you've seen him destroy ships and stuff in movies before, and usually he's just kind of like standing next to it, and he'll smash it. But he's like latched onto this boat, like with all on all fours, just hooked onto this boat, like ripping into it. And that's the thing I like. Ken here says, that's yeah, right there when he punches the crap out of the ship, like that. That whole sequence in the water, and then the sequence, the city destruction sequence. My only complaint would be that I wish it was longer, but that you can say that about all the movies.
Well, because it just felt like the Tokyo stuff, like the Ginza attack. It felt like we saw pretty much that whole entire sequence before the movie came out. I
That's
think
the problem.
that was the
Trailers
only
these days,
disappointing
right?
thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, trailers now are just they show you too much.
It's still nothing like seeing it in a theater, though. It's like even you could see. It's one thing to see the whole thing like on your computer or on your phone, but when you actually go see it.
Yeah, I mean, when I watched the trailers and stuff beforehand, I thought, like this looks really impressive. Like the effects look really good. I hope that they are good. I hope they're not just showing the best stuff of the movie. But like the effects are legitimately phenomenally good. And right from the jump, just the Odo Island stuff before Godzilla appears looks so different than any other Godzilla movie. Just the way the plane is shot as it's landing, just the way.
That was going to be something I was going to say before. Just from those opening frames, that you're seeing something very different and very special. Like just the way, like you said, like the landing gear comes down, it's a POV.
Yeah.
And
and before now, I don't remember much about Shin Godzilla, but before now, every Godzilla movie had to have that explosive beginning. Like you're watching Godzilla, here's the main title card, here's something going on to make it clear it's Godzilla. But you get the Toho logo, a quick little, 70th anniversary thing, and then you're in a completely different type of movie.
Yeah, they
Like
don't
what
say
John
the
was
title
talking
to the
about.
end, right? They don't have a title card.
Yeah,
It's
there's
No,
no title till
not
the
until
very
the end.
end, yeah.
No.
It's awesome. I really love that. It was almost like you just watched, Godzilla -1. That was the coolest part to me.
So what has happened? What does Toho do now? So this movie is obviously a huge success. It won an Oscar. It's gotten Godzilla, the Japanese Godzilla, back into the public consciousness. It's shown that they can do serious movies.
Highest grossing Godzilla movie worldwide of all time.
Yeah. What does
Japanese
Toho do?
Japanese Godzilla movie of all time, highest grossing. So that's huge.
Hartman, I'm going to ban you.
Yeah, triple ban.
But like, what does Toho do next? Like, what do you want to see him do? Because Toho historically has not learned the best lessons from things being successful. It's not just Toho. I mean, it's just all the studios don't learn their lessons from things they always learn the wrong thing.
But this is different, though, honestly.
I mean, did they just make a sequel? Do you want a sequel? Like, I don't really want a sequel.
He said to be interested in making a sequel, a serious sequel where he fights another kaiju. Like he said that. So like, is that where they go? Is it going to?
Is that what Toho is going to want to do? Because they got to look at the numbers. How much did it make in Japan? How many awards did it make in Japan? How much it won an Oscar here? How much money did it make here? How much merchandise has it sold? Like, let's look at all of this. how do we go forward without backtracking back to what he used to be? If we start bringing in monsters and monster fights, does our budget enable that? Will the effects look as good if we start bringing in monsters? Do we have to up our budget? That means we're making less money. We don't want people to start thinking the movie's a schlock again. We want to get an American release, maybe up for another Oscar. There's a lot for Toho to think about it this time. And they're going to want to repeat the success, but they have to be super careful.
Yeah, if they did another sequel, I don't think they could do it with just Godzilla himself. I don't think would.
But it's not like, oh, here's King Ghidorah. Here's here's this again. But
I think it's got to be the original kaiju. I don't think it could be, guess what? He's fighting Anguirus, or like here's Gigan and here's a UFO. Like, I think the director will keep it more realistic.
None of that would fit in this world.
I'm so tired already about hearing about Anguirus. People want this to be.
Yeah, I don't want
to. Everyone wants Showa 2.0 with this film.
No.
Oh, it took place in the 40s. Let's make it Showa again. So naturally, Anguirus has to come back. It's like, who says?
No, I think he has to create his own monster for his own story universe. I don't want to call it universe because I don't know 5 trilogies or whatever, but he needs to create his own original kaiju that fits within this timeline story.
They have to take time and think about it.
Yeah,
we have never had a Godzilla sequel that was also just Godzilla again.
Right.
So, I mean, if anybody could make that interesting, I think it would probably be Yamazaki. I just think you wait, understand that he sort of brought big success not only to your studio but to the character, and then just let him come up with a story and let him take time with the screenplay, and then when he's ready to go.
Yeah, 3-4 years. I think you make it.
Don't rush him. I mean, they won't have a film for the 70th, but they won't have a film for this year. But who cares? You know?
No, I mean, this was one of those lightning in a bottle movies too, though. Like this movie, you know, I mean, Godzilla can be anything. Like, right? We know that it can be what it is in this movie. He can be broing out with King Kong, like he's apparently going to be doing in this movie. He can be, you know, a metaphor for Fukushima. He can be a metaphor for nuclear bomb. He can be a metaphor for PTSD. You know, he's like an actor, right? Like Clint Eastwood or whatever. Like he can be whatever, right? Clint Eastwood wasn't a cowboy in real life, so like, just make a good movie with him in it. It doesn't. I'm fine if they never go back to this timeline again. Like if this was a one-off and they did this serious Godzilla movie, cool. And you know what? If they want to do like a 60s style Godzilla movie that's not as serious, but still has like the story and the effects to that are on par with -1, then I would almost prefer that than for them to be like, well, we made this super serious movie and now we're going to keep it in that vein, but he's going to fight another monster. I think as soon as you have him fighting another monster, it automatically becomes less serious.
Yep.
Like, honestly, like,
I think it depends on the monster.
The focus becomes 2 monsters fighting with each other and not humans existing in a world where this monster is fucking up their lives.
Yeah, I really just think it depends on how that monster story is told.
What about
do it? I'd love to see it, but
like in terms of who they could even do in terms of monsters, what about Hedorah?
Dude,
like that's a one thing I can think of that has a strong enough message or even impact on the people in the film, like something involving pollution, or maybe that, like maybe have it take place in the 70s.
That's what I was going to say. I think Hedorah is such a 70s creation, and by necessity because of the serious pollution problems that were cropping up in the 60s and 70s. I would almost love to see them jump ahead a little bit, maybe to the late 50s or early 60s, and see like what Yamazaki could do, because like we were pretty much just spending time in bombed out post-war Japan. Now it will be cool to kind of see that 60s aesthetic applied to this. Maybe it takes Godzilla 20 years to regenerate. Who knows?
Yeah.
Your main characters could be reporters again, you know, get that 60s feel. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a fan of that era of Toho. So I think, like, I wouldn't have a problem with him jumping ahead, doing the next one in the 60s, jumping ahead, doing one in the 70s, do one in the 80s. I mean, you know, and introduce other monsters that are kind of relevant to those time frames. Like, you know, like a lot of people want Biollante, either in a Legendary movie or I think Biollante works too. I think you need more grounded monsters to work with this Godzilla. I really don't think you can do.
I wouldn't
like,
have an issue like if it was Anguilas or like Veron or Barragat, like any creature like that was kind of like because you could imagine those creatures being existing somewhere out there with the Odo Island Godzilla,
Yeah.
and they might have looked a little different. And
Or
depending on
Rodan.
yeah, like I would be fine with that. I'd also be fine if they made up the monster. I mean,
yeah,
new
I
kaiju
just
are
don't
always
see
cool.
how you go from this to having him fight Mecha Godzilla or
Yeah,
something.
that's way too much of a
no.
step.
No, I don't want Gigan. I don't want King Ghidorah. I don't want space shit. Like,
No, you don't need any outer space stuff. I agree. I mean, if you're going to introduce outer space stuff in any Godzilla thing, it fits more in the legendary
yeah,
mold, which is why I'm kind of surprised they didn't just make King Ghidorah an alien monster
they
controlled
said
by
it.
an
They
alien.
said it that he was not of this planet. They said that.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but I'm surprised they didn't introduce aliens in the
aliens?
movie. You know, yeah.
The movie
like-
was already crowded, so
I mean, where else are they going to go if they make a sequel to this next one? Like, they got to go somewhere else, and Space Aliens is the one thing I could think of they haven't done yet.
yeah, you're talking legendary?
Not fucking legendary, yeah. Like, where if they make another one after this, where the hell are they going to go? You can't just keep making Godzilla and Kong films.
I mean, I wish they would go aliens. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, you know, I mean, we can talk about that. We'll talk about Kong here for the last couple of minutes. I mean, what are your expectations of this movie? I mean, I think it's going to be so unbelievably stupid. I mean, I think I'm going to probably have a good time in the movie theater.
I'm gonna love the shit out of it.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be plenty to enjoy in it, even as wacky and out of because at least like you got to give Adam Wingard credit for like he knows like he's leaning into the silliness and
Yeah.
he's going full on with it.
exactly.
So that's always the thing is like I don't like when movies don't know what tone they want and
Right.
they kind of go back and forth. Like at least if they're going to pick like a tone of like that they're going for in Godzilla X Kong and they stick with it. All right.
He's very much embracing like the ridiculousness. Like I just see all these like monsters. It's like he's playing with action figures in this movie. Like he's just making one of his imaginations come to life, and he's enjoying the shit out of it. Like he's doing his press run. You can see like he's so stoked for this film. I'm gonna love the shit out of it. It's gonna be so ridiculous.
Yeah, I think the problem with Godzilla King of the Monsters was that it didn't know, like Dutch, you just said, he knows what he's making, right? And I think King of the Monsters was trying to be like Godzilla 2014, but it was also trying to be what Godzilla versus Kong was, and it couldn't figure out whether did it want to be a serious monster movie or did it want to be a silly monster movie. And I think now they've just been like, we're just gonna make silly monster movies, and that's fine. Like, that's cool. Just go ahead and make them entertaining. As long as it's entertaining and fun and respectful to the character, then I don't have a problem with it.
And I mean, like I've found things to enjoy in every one of the MonsterVerse.
Yeah.
I overall enjoyed Godzilla 2014, save for a few things here and there, but I liked what Gareth Edwards was trying to do with that film. King of the Monsters, love the score, love the mixing in some of the old Godzilla roars and stuff. And then Kong Skull Island, I think, is just a solid film all the way around. Love that.
Yeah, I love that.
I think it's the best of all the MonsterVerse movies. Godzilla versus Kong, I thought, was a great step up. Like the CGI was so much better. The fights were brightly lit. You could see everything that was happening. There was a lot of detail. And it was overall just a lot of fun. I like the way that they presented Godzilla. Like when he steps ashore in Hong Kong, you just see that giant foot come down and like that pan up. And I'm like, yeah, I want to see like shots of scale like that. That was my only complaint about the now infamous running scene in the Godzilla X Kong trailer is that if you didn't know any better, that you would think those were human-sized, creatures.
There's no environmental context in the trailers about what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, I've read that's a problem in the movie with early previews have said that there's a sequence in Hollow Earth where there's nothing that gives them any sense of scale. So it could just be normal sized monsters fighting each other. And the sense of scale obviously is what makes them interesting. Now that did you guys all see the scene of him fighting that spider?
No.
Yeah, so that looks pretty cool. But now the complaints are that the CGI looks like they're all weightless. In the way they move, which, I mean, I don't know.
Easter weekend is going to be very interesting on social media and the message boards or wherever you hang out. I imagine it's going to make money. but I imagine
yeah.
the critics are going to tear it apart, and I imagine fans are going to have a complaint regardless of what happens. Either they're going to be mad at the critics, mad at the people going to see the movie. There's going to be a lot of bitching in 2 weeks.
Well, no, because you're going to get a nice cast iron side-by-side shot of Rotten Tomatoes is great. The critics are great for -1, and now it's Rotten Tomatoes sucks. The critics suck.
Yeah.
They know. And
Rotten Tomatoes and the Oscars are only worth paying attention to apparently when they like the
when they're
things you like.
positive. Yeah.
well, like my esteemed colleague Kyle Bird has said, nobody wants to sit at the cool kids table until they sit at the cool kids table. So it's like the films don't need to be like all works of art. I'll always agree with that. I just think that like it's okay to sort of prefer Godzilla be more serious. I don't know, like we'll have to see. We'll see.
It's okay to like -1 over what we're getting in 2 weeks. A lot of people are having a really difficult time with that.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite era of Godzilla is the 70s era, and those are by far not the best Godzilla movies. So,
but I mean, I've been saying all over social media though, but they were made for kids 50 years ago. It's like it's okay to be critical of something like Godzilla and Kong, even though you like Godzilla versus Megalon, because you're intelligent enough to know you shouldn't be comparing them anyway.
Yeah, it gets so sort of like lame every time. Like the one constant defense of the tone of that this movie's going for is showing the tail slide.
Yeah.
GIF, and I'm like, is that like if that's the only one you have? I mean, that to me that's like, it's a bad faith argument because that was 50 years ago. We should know for the same reason that like Batman in 1966, like that series was great and of its time, and maybe Brian, like you said, maybe like a lighter Batman like that could work in the right hands, but largely people have come to want Batman as being the Dark Knight. You know what I mean? So,
and again, Megalon was made for kids. You could do a Godzilla show for kids now. I mean, there are Godzilla shows for kids now in Japan. Godzilla versus Megalon was a kids movie, but these legendary films are not kids movies. So why compare?
I would
they're made for everybody.
I think they're definitely made towards kids.
Yeah, I agree.
They should take those out,
but they're not being released. And Megalon was a children's film festival thing. Right. No adults were going to see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The legendary films have an adult audience, whereas the 70s Godzilla films did not.
Yeah.
So they were. I mean, and there was people who point out the tail slide probably are completely ignorant about what the 70s were even like in Japanese media. They probably had never seen Ultraman or any of that stuff. It was all of a piece in the 1970s. It wasn't just Godzilla being goofy. It was everything was like that.
It was all goofy.
But now it's not like that. So bringing up Megalon entirely doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. And he did slide on his tail in the Megalon remake that came out. When did that come out? In December? That Megalon short film? Yeah, the short film.
If you're going to reference some flying, the zero-G Hollow Earth is the time to do it. So
I hope they do it. I hope he flies in Hollow Earth.
I would bet on seeing a scene where he just shoots his heat ray and goes flying. Like why not?
Yeah, I mean, what the hell?
John, wasn't there a rumor that Godzilla was going to fly in Final Wars? We were both around back then for that.
There was so much BS flying around at that point.
Or he was going to do like a Tigger tail bounce or something like that.
Yeah, don't I remember? Didn't somebody say like he was going to fly like Superman or something, or he was supposed to? Like, I mean, it could have just been all. There was so much speculation.
That was the era of message boards too. People just make shit up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta get together.
Nobody ever made stuff up on message boards, did they?
We have to do an episode where we just chat about those days, like what it was like being a fan back then.
Yeah.
That was when it was fun, like the infamous.
It was so fun.
There's two versions of the 62 where Godzilla wins there and Kong wins here. Like
people still believe it.
I was gonna say that's still people still say that.
I know. My favorite ones because I wish it was real though.
I think it might have been Reddit. Someone was like, "Yeah, people still believe there were two endings like 10 years ago." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "No, that was disproven in the 80s," and they were like, "Prove it." Yeah. I'm like,
"Prove it."
Prove it was disproven.
You want me to prove people didn't believe there were two endings in the 80s? How am I supposed to prove that?
That is incredible. That's Criswell. Like, can you prove it didn't happen?
Can you prove it? Dude, somebody posted on Reddit a picture of Norman England with the GMK suit and wrote, "That's Norman England, who's the only American to ever play Godzilla in a Japanese Godzilla movie." And I was like, no, it isn't. I mean, it is Norman England, but that's not what he did.
Have you guys seen someone was trying to sell a Godzilla quilt with apparently, I think it was a Fukube, Honda, and Tsuburaya's signatures on them?
Oh, it was
Tsuburaya's signature was actually Gazacheski's.
It was Ed Gazacheski's
Oh
signature.
my God, dude.
No, yeah, it was Honda, supposedly Honda, Tsuburaya, and Tanaka.
Okay.
And yeah, and it's it. Like,
yeah. A Monster Zero board reunion. So we're actually working. Me and Mike and Rich have been talking about doing a Monster Zero centric episode of this. Probably try to get Rich Cox on there because he was obviously one of the founders of the Monster Zero board. So we'll probably work on that. And then we're gonna wrapping it up here. We'll be back. Not on Easter Sunday. We're not going to do an Easter Sunday show. So we will do the following Sunday, which would be April 7th.
And that's definitely going to be
and that's obviously going to be Godzilla
X
Kong centric. You two gentlemen are welcome to return. I believe Rich will be here as well. That'll probably be a lively discussion, I'm sure. And then I think the episode after that, we're going to do Godzilla. We're going to do King Kong versus Godzilla, the original 1962 movie. We're going to cover the making of that, the English versus the Japanese versions, and the collectibles based on that. And then after that, we don't have anything.
We have Bandai to get back to. We
have Bandai to get back to. So, but the next two will probably be Kong Godzilla centric episodes. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Rich, I hope you feel better. Dutch and Nev, thanks for jumping on. Mike, thanks as always. And so like I said, we're not going to be doing one in 2 weeks because it's Easter Sunday, but we will do one the week after that, and that's going to be Godzilla X Kong. And that's pretty much it. Congratulations to Godzilla -1 because that is awesome. And we'll see you all in a few weeks. Have a good weekend, what's left of it, and have a happy St. Patrick's Day. Don't drink and drive.
Nope.
Be safe.
How about some coffee?
Coffee? I like coffee.